I call this meeting of the South Bradford Board of Education together at 6:32. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is the roll call. Can you call the roll?
Yes, ma'am.
Secretary?
Dana Winston.
Present.
Anthony Johnson.
Present.
Lori Hicks.
Present.
Cheryl Fletcher.
Present.
Shirley is coming. Amanda Fletcher present. Shirley Calver.
Present. Next item on the agenda is approval of agenda. Are there any corrections to the agenda? There are none. Agenda will be as written. Next item on the agenda is superintendent communications. Mr. Bob.
I have none this evening, Madam President.
Wow, I don't believe it. Next item. I know. Next item on the agenda is board communications. Are there any? No board communications? Wow, okay. Let me see, do I have any? Not yet. Okay. Next item on the agenda is comments from the audience. There are none. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do I have a board member willing to adopt the consent agenda?
To the chair,
Yes,
I'd like to move the adoption of the following resolution.
It's been moved by Mrs. Fletcher. Do I have a support? Support. It's been supported by Mrs. Hicks. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? 0 nays. Resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda is establish calendar of events.
To the chair.
Yes?
I have another question, just looking on the cover on 9. It says the purpose of the meeting for June 16th, 2024 is for board self-evaluation. Shouldn't it be 2025 if we're putting it on the calendar we're approving? Because 2024 has passed.
Let's see. Which one is
It's right on the cover explaining some of our meeting dates that we're going to approve on our calendar. The explanation of the June 16th meeting, it says 2024, and I think it should be 2025 because that's the calendar year we're approving.
It says 2024, 2025.
No, I'm looking at the specific date that we're scheduling that.
Oh, okay.
It just needs to be changed. To make sure we're
Yeah, it
clear.
should be 2025. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Let's. Okay. Together we can work towards building a brighter future for our students. Now, what does the board think of instead of having the board meetings at each school, having the principals come to us and have it in Soar? So tell me what you guys think about that.
To the chair.
Yes?
I would leave it up to the principals. I like going to Thurston, mostly because every spring we go, the kids do a performance. I'm not sure if that would be a problem for them to go from school to here, or if they could just walk over or have transportation. But otherwise, I would just leave it up to the principals. I don't have a problem.
I am under the impression that the principals are okay with it.
To the chair,
Yes?
I would rather have them here. It's just, personally, I think that we sometimes have issues with the space. Projector's not working, or it's hot, or I think this is just a better space. I know we've been sometimes, I remember it was hot or cold in there one time when we were trying to get together, then projectors won't work, and I think if they came here, it would just be easier to make sure that the space is accommodating for everyone that needs to be there.
Well, any other comments?
You still gonna get some food?
Well, that can be arranged. That can be arranged.
To the chair, I would agree with Mr. Johnson. I mean, Sheer, I follow and support Mr. Winston and that, and Sheer would give us the room and the climate control and everything like that. But it is really nice to have that break and that snack, especially for people that are running from work or whatever. And to me, it looks just like a little special appreciation to the board. So if we could work around that, I would support it too.
You would support having it at so
Yes.
that would be good. Yes.
I agree, to the chair, I'm sorry. I know a lot of principals would like that, so they've talked about
Yeah.
it before, so.
Principals are okay. Well, all in favor?
Laura
Oh,
wants to-
yes.
I would like it at SOAR, because we can wear big people shoes.
Oh, true, that's another one.
Yeah,
Better
how about
chairs.
that? Okay.
I didn't want to say that.
You wanna say food?
No,
No, he didn't want to say, he didn't want to say that
Order.
big people chairs. Well, all right, so, are we all in favor of having it at SOAR and have the principals come to us? Okay, very good. So we'll make that correction on the calendar for when we have our board, when we have our schools. Okay. Now, there's another one. Also, Memorial Day falls on May the 26th, and that's a holiday, and that day is scheduled for our board meeting. And I do realize that this year, we only had one meeting in May, and our June 10th meeting was very, very long. So, how about if we have it either Monday, May the 19th, or May the 27th or the 28th? What is the will of the board?
To the chair?
Yes.
I prefer we keep it on Mondays.
Okay. Anybody else?
I would be good with the 19th on that Monday.
Okay, so we'll
Because, I
also,
mean, being a holiday weekend, people
Yeah.
are gonna be gone.
right. Okay. So we will correct that from May 26th to May the 19th. So that'll be, we'll still have the two meetings in May. Is that good with everybody? Okay, so do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
To the chair, I have a question.
Yes?
We're not doing the board evaluation until June, even though the committee is reporting back in October.
This is October 24.
Yeah, so if we're not gonna do the evaluation until June, that means we haven't done it for 2 years. So are you saying we're gonna do it in October and then in June again?
We'll decide on that. We just have,
Oh, Chris raised his hand.
yes, Chris.
I'm sorry, after you finish that thought, what you were expressing, I had a question.
Okay, June 16th. But we did put 2025, didn't we?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, what's the will of the board?
Well, it's more than 6 months in between, so we technically could get caught up and do both. You know, we
That-
test
that
whatever
would-
we
that would
decide and
work,
whatever the
yeah.
committee recommends, you know, it could be a run-through, and we can, you know, do it and then get back on track in 2025.
Okay.
I don't know what the rest of the board thinks.
How does everyone else feel about that? Alicia, you're the chair of that.
Well, that's gonna change in January possibly.
So right
She's
now,
chair
I'm
for
inclined
October.
to agree. I'm sure we can do two.
Well, we just
Within
doing
6
that so
months.
we can approve our dates for our calendar.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
Chris has.
Yes, Chris?
Sorry, before you vote on it, my one question is, you mentioned for the meetings with the schools, are we saying all meetings for SOAR will be in SOAR? Or just the meetings where the schools are presenting in SOAR? Just so I understand before you vote on it.
Well, that's a good idea. What do we think? What was
Well, all meetings being SOAR
No,
instead of.
just
No,
schools.
No, just
schools.
the schools.
Yeah.
Just the schools.
Okay.
Okay. All right. You got it, Chris? Okay. Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
To the chair,
Yes?
I would like to move the adoption of our calendar, please.
Been moved by Mrs. Fletcher. Do I have a support?
Support.
It's been supported by Mr. Winston. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? 7 ayes, 0 nays, resolution adopted. How about that? That's all right. Okay, excuse me, next item on the agenda is named depository bank. Okay. The attached resolution names the depository banks for the South Redford School District for the 2024-2025 school year. The depository banks for district funds are Comerica Bank Detroit, JP Morgan Chase, the Bank of New York, Fifth Third Bank, Michigan Liquid Asset Fund Plus, and Flagstar Bank. Signature cards and bank resolutions must be signed by the 2024-2025 officers of the Board of our accounts with the bank if there is a change to the signers for the district. Do I have a board, are there any questions? Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
To the chair,
Yes?
I move the adoption of the following resolution.
It's been moved by Mrs. Fletcher. Do I have a support? Support. It's been supported by Mrs. Hicks. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? 7 ayes, 0 nays, resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda is the name of district legal firms. The board will name the firms Miller, Canfield, Paddock, and Stone, PLC, and Thrun Law Firm, PC, as the legal firms to be used by the South Redford District for the 2024-2025 school year. Do you have any questions?
Yes, to the chair.
Yes.
I've got a couple. And it revolves around budget, and it comes up every time. There is no existing contract, nothing locked in with this firm for what they charge us for their services or anything, that could technically support us. We've just been rolling it over, and it's been over 20 years since it's been revisited or reviewed. And I would just like to see us go through that process of reviewing who our attorneys are and get a contract in place. Because we have contracts for every other service we have. And this comes up every year and there is no documentation.
What's the will of the board?
I have a question. Is there a reason why we don't have one, a contract?
Jason?
Not to my knowledge.
Oh.
There just has never been a written contract between South Redford and either of those two firms since our time in working with them.
And we've been working with them for quite a while.
We have for greater than 40 years. Miller Canfield has been representing the South Redford School District for greater than 4 decades. I'm not sure about Troon. I do know that Miller Canfield's rates will remain the same as they've been for the past several years. I'm not sure about Troon.
To the chair.
Good.
I have a question. Jason says the rates will stay the same, but there is no contract. So legally, there is nothing binding rate-wise. So I am just requesting as a board that we revisit and go through the process to clean it up and get it in order. Not that we have to change firms, but I would like to see a contract where it specifically states what we're obligated to pay as a district. I mean, because how do you budget? There is nothing in writing. Jason says it won't go up, but legally there's nothing in writing. So, I mean, that's what I would respectfully request, that we go through a process and just clean it up a little bit.
To the chair.
Mr. Johnson.
I'm sure if we got in contact with this company for a firm, that there's something, it's gotta be something. Because we didn't just pick this firm without some form of, there's something about by it being so long, it's probably just not thought of anymore. But when they first picked these firms up, there's gotta be something that binds them, because if we left them and went to another firm, you would have to do some form of paperwork to leave them and go somewhere else, because all of your material has to follow to the other firm. So there's a lot of legal things that takes place for you to leave them and go to another firm anyway. So you have to do releases and all type of other things, because that client attorney privilege thing goes, even once you leave them, it still stays with that company.
Sure.
Yes.
How often do we use that?
Jason.
It's situational. I know last year's legal fees were relatively low. And the board's aware of the scenarios that we reached out to Miller Canfield for their services. And similar to what Board Member Johnson's sharing, it's the board's naming that empowers the cabinet on legal matters to, support the legal support that's needed based on whatever the item may be. We could not, as a cabinet, operationalize to work with a firm that is not named by the Board of Education. So it is the naming of those two firms, of Troon and Miller Canfield, that when we do have a legal matter in which we're enlisting their support, that it's with one of those two firms that the board has named. There could be a future scenario in which we would have conversations with the board to say, said law firm has actually referred us to a different firm because they're more of an expert in said topic than what Troon or Miller Canfield may be. But the board would always be aware in those instances if that assists the board in some of the conversation here tonight.
To the chair, because
Oh, I'm sorry.
the piggyback what he's saying is that they're under retainer.
Correct.
Right? So anytime we use them, you can just request an itemized bill, if you will.
That's my next question.
And
Retainer
they will give you an itemized bill of every little thing that you had, because you still pay your retainer plus what they do for you when you call upon them to do something for you. So you can get an itemized bill of everything that you use them for, since they've been under retainer
And
by law.
And if I may, Madam President?
Okay.
For fiscal year '22, we spent less than $3,000 in legal fees to Miller Canfield. And for fiscal year '23, we spent approximately $10,500. So I know that there are several members on the board that certainly remember years where the district's legal fees were considerably higher than what they are now. However, certainly whatever the will of the board may be, if the board wishes to memorialize things greater than what the district has previously done for the past 4 decades, we can certainly do that.
Yes, Lori.
Jason, can you explain to us the difference between the work that Miller, Canfield, Paddock, and Stone do and Thurham Law Firm?
Yes. So Miller Canfield is more our general counsel on all matters pertaining to the district when it comes to legal items. Troon, they would be an example similar to what I just mentioned in terms of their specialty. So they do have some overlap, but for example, one of Troon's specialties is servicing students with IEPs when it comes to special education law. In fact, the board may recall, or the majority of the board may recall, there's been some instances in the past where we have enlisted the support of Troon because they are more well-versed when it comes to special education law versus Miller Canfield, or they work in conjunction with representing South Redford as well as with Miller Canfield and Troon on a particular item together. We've done that as well. But they also have very strong ties to the educational community when we think about collective bargaining, students with IEPs, matters that would impact schools. But that is the general difference between the two. Yeah.
I have a question. Do you know of any other districts that are under contract with their law firms, or do they do what we do and retain?
That I'm not sure.
And in the contract, so if we set a contract, that means we would pay them however much we pay them for the year, whether we use them or not?
We don't. It's pay as we utilize
Right now.
services. Yep. At an hourly rate.
What's the will of the board?
To the chair.
Yes.
I'm not saying we should leave them. I'm saying we should just clean up the process and have things more clean. We've been with them 20, 30, 40 years, whatever. It's rolled over. We know we need services, but nothing can be hard copy produced because I've asked and asked. And I don't know, and I could be wrong, I don't know of any other service that the board approves that we don't have a contract for, because it revolves around our budget and things like that. It's all part of it. So mine is just clarifying it and having kind of a little bit of protection for us, not saying to leave it. If we go ahead and assign them, I would just like to see us continue, or even like Misha said, have Chris send out a listserv and see what other districts do. So going down the road, we have time just to reevaluate instead of just keeping it rolling over and over and over.
You can kind of find out through other districts what attorney firms are used, but firms are not going to tell you who their clients are.
No.
What they charge.
They won't do that.
They're not gonna-
They won't tell you what,
They're not gonna
they won't
give-
tell you the rates or anything like
They're not
that.
even
They're
gonna
not
tell you
gonna
who their
say who their
clients
firm,
are.
yeah, who they.
They don't have, they're not gonna tell you who their clients are. They can tell you have multiple clients, they can tell you.
Oh, the district can tell us how they go through the process. I'm asking
They
about the
reach out to different
process.
districts and find out who they use, but the firm can't tell you.
Right, that, I totally understand that. I'm asking, that we just do our due diligence and be responsible as a board.
Well, I have a question. If we tried to if we got a contract and we said maybe $10,000 a year, does that mean we have to pay them $10,000?
Yes.
Or why can't we just continue as a retainer and,
But we don't even have that in writing. You know what I mean? I just want the label.
Something was signed as a retainer.
But they cannot produce it. That's all I'm asking, is that we know we have the paperwork, the
You asked
proper
for it or the
paperwork.
district asked?
I have asked our superintendent for 2 years now, and he's gone back and they've looked and stuff, and it's rolled over. We've had a relationship. I'm not questioning the relationship. I'm just questioning we can't produce any.
the only problem that I have with that is if we get a set contract, or if we could just say on a retainer basis.
Well, you can get that in writing. That's all I'm asking. I'd be fine with it. We don't have to put, you know, we're gonna pay you a lump sum no matter how much. They're not
Okay,
going to
that-
take
that-
that. They
that's-
bargain, and
yeah.
that's part of the contract
Okay,
thing, is the
that's what I-
bargaining, what
that's
type
I'm
of
thinking.
contract
If
you
we get
get.
a contract and say we're gonna pay them $10,500.
You're not gonna ask for that.
Okay, we're gonna ask for a retainer.
To the chair, quickly.
Yes,
My concern and my thinking was this: if we've had a 40-year relationship, I'm sure some stuff has been grandfathered along that they may have. My concern is if we have this conversation, they may bring us current and say, well, this is how we run things in 2024, and you have to pay at least this much for
Yeah,
us to retain
that's
them.
what I'm
That's my
concerned
concern. I'm thinking about the grandfather thing. We've been with them
Yeah,
that
I'm
long.
concerned.
They may just be like, this is an old, we're just gonna let y'all skate on the old rules. And if we say, hey, give us some concrete, then they say, well, we charge everybody $25,000 just to work with us, and then we have to go through the process of getting someone else. That was my thinking if we start digging too deep into asking them for things. But I don't know if that's true. That's just what I thought about from my higher education, if you were here before we changed the rules.
yeah,
But,
that's what I'm concerned
yeah,
about.
that's just what I
too.
was thinking.
Yes.
To the chair, they could
yeah.
do that anyway. If you don't have a contract, they could say that. That's the whole point of having a contract, is that you lock in what we're paying.
That's,
But second of all, I don't know why we have to have two firms. I've never heard of any other district having two different law firms.
That's
One
fair.
firm should be able to handle everything.
It's very common.
I've never heard of it.
Well, if Miller Canfield is not, if they don't handle IEPs and Truon does, well then,
Well, Jason said there's a lot of overlap though. So Troon might also do general counsel.
They do. They do. And it's not uncommon for school districts to work with multiple firms depending upon what the issue is. Especially because certain firms have different reputations for different topics. And it's not to say, for example, that Miller Canfield doesn't do some special ed, because they do. However, depending upon the layers involved on a particular issue, they do then refer you to working with somebody else who has more experience or differing experience on said specific item. And it's not uncommon for districts to work with various firms depending upon what the topic may be. And I think each board member has raised valid points. I don't know that it should prevent the board's business from moving forward here this
I
evening.
agree.
I have only seen Miller Canfield represent the interests of South Redford extremely well in my 20-plus years here in South Redford, and to know that they have represented South Redford's interests for greater than 40 years. I can certainly engage them in that conversation. However, each board member has raised valid points about the topic, and so it's at the direction of the board.
Well, if
But-
we have a retainer, what's the will of the board? You want to keep the retainer, or do you want
that's,
to?
no, that's not, I guess, what we're talking about right now. We're just trying
It's not.
to vote on if we're
Right.
gonna keep them. So, I think that's a
Yeah.
whole separate conversation, and we
Right.
probably should stay moving with the agenda of naming them as our legal firm.
Because I just think that if 1 year we paid 3,000 and the next year we paid 10,000, depending on what we used, what's the will of the board? I'm with keeping it,
To the chair,
naming it.
naming it, I'm not questioning us naming it. We have to
And I
have legal.
understand, but
I'm
that's what we're
questioning
doing
us
right
going
now.
back. Once we do it, I just wanted it to be talked about at the table, that I think we should make sure there are things in place and we revisit things. I mean, just because it's been 30 or 40 years, we're going by hearsay. We haven't had much experience as a board with the attorneys one-on-one. I hear and can understand everybody's point of view and yours about the prices or even questioning things. My concern is we don't have anything in writing, and nothing can be presented, and there has to be something. There has to be minutes or something when the board established the first time to go with these companies. I've asked for that in our archives, and it can't be produced. So, you know, that's all I've asked for, not to remove the companies, but for this board to ask that we move forward and kind of clean up and have better records and stuff moving forward.
Can we name Miller Canfield and Paddock and Stone PLC and True Law Firm tonight?
I move the adoption of the resolution, please.
I'm sorry, were we done discussing though?
I thought we were.
I had another question.
Well, you didn't say. What is your
Well,
question?
you guys just moved, so I was gonna ask if why doesn't the RFP committee look into like the law firm stuff? Because it might be better to do some more research instead of just voting on
Do some more
something.
research for what?
The law firms in general, why we choose them, how we choose them. We're just voting on these names and we don't know, other than what Jason tells us, or
Okay.
when we've met with her in person, we don't know anything about why we hire them or what they do.
Well,
Or if there could be a better fit out there, or a more fiscally responsible choice. We don't know that because we haven't done the research. We're just voting.
what's the will of the board? We're gonna do the will, what's the will of the board?
That's fine, I'm just telling you, I've asked for 2 years now, why hasn't this gone out to bid through the RFP committee? I don't understand why it's such a problem, and we always have to force it through, and we can't do any research on it.
Well, what I don't understand is we're just naming the firms, and I do not feel that.
So you want to name firms without any research or anything backing it, though, that's what I'm questioning.
I just asked, what's the will of the board?
You can vote and then find out what it is this time.
It's two separate issues.
Yeah,
Yes,
we're
it
talking-
is. It's
so,
two separate issues.
Can I move the resolution?
Yes, you may.
I'd like to move the adoption of the resolution.
Support.
It's been moved by Mr. Winston and supported by Mrs. Early. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays?
No.
Six ayes, one nay. Resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda,
To the chair,
yes?
can we close out the second part of the discussion with 11? Well, Daniel mentioned it, and I mentioned it's two separate issues while we're discussing it. What's the will of the board moving forward? Are you just going to let it continue to roll over every year, or can we go back and do some research and report back before it happens again?
To the chair.
What, yes?
I would like to see some type of follow-up for, copy of the retainer.
What's the will of the board?
To the chair, I think I've made it clear. I want to see,
But I'm
background
asking
stuff.
the will of the
so
board.
you have to kind of poll your board.
I will.
So Lori has stated, I have stated what I would like myself.
And Amanda.
I'm gonna keep voting no until I get documentation, or until people do the research.
Okay. Okay. I will, Mr. Johnson.
I don't see what this company has been doing a decent, outstanding job, since there's been no complaints about anything they've done thus far. And I'm here long before I got here,
Mrs. Early.
so I don't see where
I don't need that, so, I mean, if they want to talk about it, that's fine.
you can put it on a different agenda to discuss something else. Right now, it's just to vote on if we're gonna obtain them for this.
Okay, we will put that on a different agenda and discuss that. Okay? item on the agenda is name newspaper of record. The board will name the Detroit News and Free Press as the newspaper that will carry the South Redford legal notices for the 2024-2025 school year. Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
I have a question.
Yes,
Is this the same newspaper we used last year, or?
yes it is.
When did we switch from Hometown Life?
When they went out of business.
When they
No,
went
they're
out-
still in business, they're online only now. So it has to be a
That has to be
newspaper that is
something.
physical print then?
It's
Okay.
probably about, what, 4 years ago maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Do I have a
Madam President, I move the adoption of the following resolution.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Early, supported by Mr. Winston. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? 7 ayes. Resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda is name auditing firm. The attached resolution named the firm Raymond as the auditing firm to be used by the South Redford School District for the 2024-2025 school year. Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
I have a question.
Yes.
Do we have a contract with them, since it's just for the 2024-2025 school year, or is that just because we have to vote on it every year?
We do not have a contract with them. However, the board took action back in April to go with Raymond, in
Yeah.
which all the rates were shared. And the board voted on naming Raymond as a firm then, and it's part of the regular meeting every July. So in a lot of ways, this is the board reaffirming what it recently did in the spring.
But there is no contract for them either,
That is,
nothing in
that
writing.
is correct. Yep. Again, sometimes with services, there's not necessarily a written, formalized contract spelling out the terms and conditions the same way that there might be with a transportation company. It sometimes shakes out differently, and that's where the board's actions that they do each July stands in the place thereof for certain services that are especially operational and not necessarily governance.
To the chair?
Yes.
Remind me if I'm kidding, but we did go out for bid, RFP, we collect, which is different. We might not have a written contract, but we collected data
We did.
and we went through all of that and we went out to bid and companies had a chance, so, which is a little bit different than the law, where we are with our law firm. Even though, you know,
True. At the
it's
same
the same,
time.
but it's different, but there is a paper trail and stuff, and we can see when it went through the board, we discussed that, the board approved it. So now we can move forward. We did have that discussion, it's on record, it's in the minutes and stuff. And it kind of goes along with the legal. That's kind of what I've been asking for years. There should be that same type of support for the legal. That, you know, you keep rolling it over. If the board did its due diligence 20, 30, 40 years ago, when, and us not having those records is what I'm questioning, not
Yeah, and
our friendship, you know, because we do have a precedence, and it shows it with the auditing. We go through a process. There should be a record, and it's kind of alarming. Then I start questioning, okay, what other things have dropped through the cracks? Where do we not have a record? And it's very pertinent that we do, you know? So,
true. And at the same time, for example, our auditing firm that the board had named every July was Plant Moran for 20-something plus years, and there was never a contract.
but there was a
And-
process.
And I'm not sure what or when that RFP process would have been, but it had definitely been quite some time. So,
To the chair,
Yes.
just because we haven't had contracts in the past doesn't mean we shouldn't have them going forward. And just because we name somebody doesn't mean that they are also picking us. That's the whole point of signing something in writing, whether it's a retainer or a contract or anything. And I think if we have a question about that, that would be something to ask our attorneys that we just named. Do we need it? Should we have it? What do other districts do? And that should be a question for the legal firms that we just named.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
what works for other districts might not work for this district. And you're, like Mr. Winston said, you might be opening up something that you don't want to open up, because previous meetings, there was complaints about money, paying out money, losing money, et cetera, et cetera. If they go to current status and say, hey, well, since this is what we do now, as of now, you have to pay us X amount of money per month, whether you use us or not. But like he said, they kind of grandfathered us in as far as, okay, give us a call when you need us, and we're going to give you the best representation we have. If we don't have it, then we'll refer you to someone else. That's why we have two, because both know how to do something, but the other one has a little more expertise in what we need here in our district. So what works for us might not work for another district, but right now, we're all trying to fix something that's not broke.
To protect ourselves.
Protect us from what?
Because they could change their mind anytime if it's not in writing. And that's why I asked for a legal opinion, not opinions of
You
trustees.
can get an attorney firm, a law firm, like that, temporarily. If we needed something and those companies weren't available, you can find a law firm that will fix your problem for that.
To the chair, since we voted on a legal firm, could we not get their legal advice like I just asked? Because clearly everyone here is not skilled enough to have all of the answers. Isn't that what we hired them for, to tell us?
But we can pose the question, right? So anybody here can ask any question, just like you did, just like you did.
That's fine,
You know,
and I'm
but
asking for a legal opinion
I
at this
get it.
point.
I get it.
I'm
but
not
we-
asking for everybody else's opinion.
But we can still give it, whether you know it
That's
or not.
fine, but it shouldn't be a back and forth
Okay,
argument if we're asking
It's
for
not going to be
legal
an
argument.
argument. I'm
It's
just
the same
looking
stuff
at-
back and forth.
I don't think this is an argument, though.
It is.
Well, then it's a repetitive discussion if it's not an argument, because it's the same thing back and forth.
Still not an argument.
I don't see the point in having opinions if there's no data to back it up.
But
All
this
I'm
is
asking
your-
for is a
the very
legal
thing
opinion.
that you're saying is your opinion.
I'm asking for a legal opinion. That's not giving an opinion. That's asking for a legal
Okay,
opinion.
wait just a minute. This is what we're gonna do, right?
What's the point of having legal if we don't ask them for their
This is
help?
what we're gonna do right now. We are going to take a vote, and it's gonna be the will of the board. Okay?
That doesn't answer my question though. And since you and Jason are the only ones that can talk to the lawyer, can my question be asked? I don't see what the problem is.
I'm not making it a problem.
But you're not answering my question. Are you going
What I'm
to
saying
ask
to
her or
you
not?
Is we're going to, it's gonna be the will of the board.
That has nothing to do with my question for the attorney. Voting on this firm has nothing to do with me asking the question to have you guys ask the question to the attorney.
Didn't we already, pass that resolution?
You just passed a resolution to pick a law firm. I'm asking you now to ask that law firm about contracts and school boards and what their advice is.
And to the chair,
Yes.
I mean, I respectfully, we do have a policy. We all can speak, like Nisha said, we all have our opinions, but we also each as individuals have the right to ask for certain things from the table to help our job better.
So is that what you're doing?
Amanda's just
You're
ask.
I am asking the only avenue, which is Shirley and Jason, to talk to the legal representation that you all just voted for to find out. do we need contracts? Should we have contracts? Should we have things in writing or not? I'm not asking them to go get contracts. I'm just asking them to ask for legal help on a legal issue, so we're not just sitting here debating it with no experience or expertise.
So your question is, should we have a contract for what?
Any
She
firm.
wants to ask. Yeah.
Should we have contracts with our legal firms, with our auditing firms?
Okay. I will. I will. Write that down. Okay. Do I have a board member willing to adopt the
Madam
resolution?
President?
Yes.
I move the adoption of the following resolution.
Support it.
It's been moved by Mrs. Early and supported by Mr. Winston. All in favor?
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays, resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda, the board will board school liaison assignments for the 2024-2025 school year. The board will discuss and confirm assignments for board members, school liaisons. At the beginning of the school year, each board member is assigned to an elementary, middle school, or high school to maintain a line of communication between the school and the board and to facilitate the board's positive relationship with the school communities. One member may be assigned to a flex year and is welcome to be present at school activities at any of the schools or may help and substitute for other board members as needed. This year, we had Mr. Johnson as Pierce, and we do rotate. So, this year for Pierce is Mrs. Early.
To the chair.
Yes.
Two things. Since the CTE is open now, instead of a flex, do you want to add that to our assignments?
No.
So
I
you-
got separate from Thursday. It's all
Yes,
this.
that's all.
It's a separate building.
Well,
Okay.
after I name this, then I.
Well, are we gonna discuss what you're naming? Did you just pick people? Or are you gonna
Yes,
ask
I
people
did.
what they
I
wanted?
picked.
Because
I
I thought
picked
we
people.
discussed people last year and you asked us if we had a preference, and now this year you've already
No,
picked
I
position. Yes, you
think-
did. You asked us last year if people had a preference or if they wanted to keep it.
No, you told me you wanted this year.
I did, because you asked.
Okay,
But
I
this year you're
picked
not
this year.
asking?
No, I'm not.
I don't know if you're allowed to just assign people, but okay.
It says, at the beginning of the school year, each board member is assigned.
That
to-
doesn't mean that they shouldn't have a say, Shirley. That doesn't mean you should just
Well-
pick whatever you want and nobody gets to say anything. But if that's the president that you want to be, go for it.
Okay. This year, Vandenberg was Mr. Winston.
Was. You saying past tense?
Who has Pierce now?
Oh, Miss Early does.
Oh, okay. So Misha has.
And I still have Vandenberg. Thank you, Ms. Townsend,
No,
appreciate
you
it.
do not.
Pierce, okay.
Mr. Johnson Vandenberg.
Well, where are you going, Daniel?
She probably won't put me at, school is not even open no more. Find out in a second.
Jefferson is Amanda.
Get drafted. Get drafted.
Adams is Daniel. Mrs. Hicks, you're flex again.
I want the flags. Thanks,
is Cheryl. And I am Thurston.
So you didn't change yourself.
No, I
So
didn't.
you got to keep what you wanted,
And
and
Lori.
everybody else changed.
And Lori,
Lori didn't necessarily want that. She didn't ask anybody else's opinion. She just assigned them.
I know, but Lori didn't change either, though. She got to keep.
But she didn't ask her what she
Okay,
wanted.
excuse me, we're gonna keep ordering this meeting today.
You're going to keep ordering what people do.
That's-
Excuse you,
that's-
Misha?
I
Do you
said,
have a
oh my
comment?
goodness.
Okay, that's enough. That's
Do you
it.
have
We're
a
not-
problem?
Excuse
Nope.
me, we
I
are
don't.
not doing this right now.
Okay, dictator. Maybe some of the side conversations should knock it off too. Because they're over there talking and you're not saying anything to them.
15.
Sorry, guys.
Jesus on the main.
I am so sorry.
Elevator music.
He really did though.
Did you get it turned off? Or is it your fault, your phone, right?
Okay,
Harder to dismiss with. 15.
do I have a board member?
Yeah, 15.
No, I don't need to do that. Next item on the agenda is consider strategic plan. Mr. Bob.
Thank you, Madam President. In cooperation with the Michigan Association of School Boards, the South Redford School District's Board of Education, Superintendent, administrators, staff, and stakeholders met throughout the year to update the district's strategic plan to reflect the current beliefs and goals of the South Redford educational community. A board retreat was held on May the 11th, 2024, followed by a strategic planning meeting on June the 11th, 2024, to aid in formalizing an updated strategic plan. At our most recent board meeting on June 24th, 2024, the Board of Education discussed the proposed district strategic plan, and the attached strategic plan is now complete and is ready for board approval. Madam President, a resolution is attached for board consideration.
Do I have any questions about this strategic plan?
To the chair?
Yes.
Just that, can we get on our calendar when this group will be reporting back so we know how it was set up when it was explained to us that they would have to report? I think it was quarterly back to the board so we can monitor their goals. Can we get that on our calendar when it's possible so we can work that into our agendas and stuff? And it keeps us focused and on task?
Was it, I think it was quarterly.
I was looking again, but
It just says board monitoring calendar. And then a one-year renewal. Doesn't say anything.
but I think we discussed quarterly.
I think we did too.
I mean, that's all otherwise I think it's a great job. I would just like it to be on our calendar so we can stay focused on it.
Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
To the chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move the adoption of the following resolution.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Fletcher, supported by Mr. Winston. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? 0 nays, 7 ayes. Resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda, consider board policy updates. Mrs. Hicks.
I did not have any questions regarding the recommendations of the committee since it was presented. So at the meeting on June 24th, 2024, the board reviewed, discussed Neola's proposed updates from Neola Volume 38, Number 2. The updated policies include appropriate options selected by the policy committee to customize the policy for the South Redford School District. A resolution is attached for board consideration.
Do I have a board, are there any questions? Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
Madam President,
Yes.
I move the adoption of the following resolution.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Early, supported by Mr. Johnson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? 0 nays. Resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda, discuss approval of consent for care policy and general consent form. Mr. Bob.
Thank you, Madam President. As the board knows, what was previously Beaumont is now Corewell Health. And so the consent for care policy and general consent form need to be approved by our Board of Education due to the corporate changes from Beaumont to Corewell. In order for the South Redford School District and Corewell Health to meet the minimum CAHC program requirements as set forth by the Michigan Department of Community Health and the Michigan Department of Education, a resolution signed by the Board of Education approving the consent for care policy as well as the general consent form of services are provided at Pierce, where K-12 education is also provided. Attached are the documents for the board's review, and then we have a special representative, Ms. Teresa Donahue, who is here this evening to answer any questions that the board may have pertaining to the 2 updated consent forms that you see there in your board packet.
Are there any questions for Teresa?
To the chair.
Yes.
Do you know if we have a representative from Corewell on either the health or wellness committee for the district?
We do.
For
Michelle.
both?
Michelle Dalton.
Michelle Dalton.
Is that for both of them or one or the other?
I know definitely for the one. Don't know about the, yes. I'm not sure for both. And then we also have other school representatives that serve on Corewell's advisory board as well, and so we have that partnership. And then there's also somebody else from Michelle Dalton's team that serves on the overlap of the advisory boards.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Follow-up question. I asked you this before, Jason. With the nursing program, do you have an estimate of when they might be able to go over there to train?
So we had some students this year that were
Okay.
able to begin embarking this most recent past school year that just concluded. We had some students that were able to begin embarking on that because of that partnership overlap that the district and now Corewell have had. And we anticipate that that will only continue to grow in the upcoming school year to provide those opportunities for both our students as well as for Corewell as well.
Okay. Thank you. One final question.
Okay.
Does Corewell also have like a, with the new law about the dental check before becoming a student, do you have someone that does that if somebody needed it?
We have a mobile dentist that
Oh, okay.
comes to our clinic,
Great.
and they set up on site every 6 months, actually,
That's great.
on site at the clinic, and the customers can come down and see. But they're independent of being our
Yeah.
patients. They are
Okay.
mobile dentists.
Okay. Thank you. That's good to know.
Very good. Any other questions? Okay. Looks like we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is comments from the audience.
We need to vote.
No, we don't. That's
No,
a
just-
It's
just
just to
discuss.
discuss.
Oh, wow. We voted on everything else.
Well, you know, we were gonna discuss and consider, but then, we thought, well.
I'm the one that dinged us last time.
Yeah, so I didn't do that this time.
It's the heat, I apologize.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Plus Delta Plan for Improvement, Mrs. Davis.
Madam President, what processes help the board's work this evening? Process?
To the chair.
Yes,
It was nice meeting our new Corewell representative as well as our new, what do you call it? Resource officer?
Resource
And I
officer.
believe she'll be the first in history to be a female resource officer for us.
yes.
For us.
For
Yes.
us, yeah. So that's a big deal.
Yes. Any other?
Okay, Madam President, opportunities for improvement, what processes would help the board's work in the future?
Yes, Mr. Winston.
In the words of Aretha Franklin, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. It's getting ridiculous that I can say, I like Gatorade, and Lori can say, I like water, and it turns into an argument. How long are we gonna keep playing these games of, you have to agree with me in order for us to have a conversation? It's just getting repetitive at this point. Lori can, I'm just using you, Lori, because you're there, but Lori can feel the way she wants to feel about anything at this board table. And I should be able to feel the way I want to feel. And as adults, because everyone at this table, I think is an adult, we should be able to be like, okay, I respectfully disagree, and we should be able to move on. But I'm looking, and everyone's kind of shocked if this is their first time here at the behavior. I mean, how long are we gonna keep doing this? I don't have to agree with anyone at this table for me to respect your thoughts and still disagree and be able to conduct ourselves at this board table better. I mean, it's just getting old at this point that this continues to come up and we talk about all these board trainings and getting along. I mean, we just gotta learn to respect that I'm gonna disagree with most of the stuff that's going on because I just have a different thought process, and that's okay. If we can get there, we'll be okay. As long as we keep wanting everybody to be on the same page and an agreement, that would be a horrible board if everybody thought the same, because there would be no new ideas coming out, everybody be thinking the same. So can we just respect that we disagree on some stuff and just respect people's thoughts and move on instead of having this circus going on up here at times, which is just inexcusable at this point. So that's all. That was a major delta for me.
Any more?
I believe that's all, Madam President.
Thank you. If there's nothing further that comes before this board, I adjourn this meeting at 7:35.